So let's start with one of the walls. So I'll hide everything and bring back one of the walls. And this wall, I'll do just an automatic wrapping because it's square, so it's easy to UVs to create the UVs on it. So now I'll go into the UVs and select two of the UV. They're called UVs in the UV editor, but in reality they are the vertex. So I'll select the vertex and I see that this is the top vertex. If I do this one, this is the down vertex. So this one, we have to rotate it. And now I'll grab one of the sides and I'll just snap these into place. So with shift right click, I'll select the edges and then shift right click and move and sew edges, and it'll bring those parts in and then attach it. And for the UVs, there's not a right way to do UVs. You could do UVs however you please. For the most part, I have noticed that when you do lots of pieces, it's easy to control, but at the same time you're gonna need more UV space. So I try to minimize the UV spaces that I need when I'm building big stuff, so that they can all fit and the detail can come out fine depending on the size of the UV map or your texture. Now that we have a wall, all we want to do is grab Shift Alt D or edit mesh, delete by type history, and delete all the history that has accumulated on this mesh. We move to the second wall and we hide the other one. Same thing, automatic mapping. We check the wall and see, and then we go into UV mode, select these and check. This is the bottom part, so this is the top part. So all I want to do is rotate it, edge, move and sew, move and sew, move and sew, move and sew, and then I'll select one of the edges, move and sew. And now if you turn on your grid, you're gonna see that everything is evened out. And since you sewed all these, the texture that you put is just gonna wrap evenly across all the surface. So that's why I'm doing this. And then all I want to do is just move it out of the way. The reason I move it out of the way from the middle 0 to 1 space is because if you select right now, let's say I bring all my meshes back, you see that everything is stacked one on top of each other, so that's a lot of clutter. I'm not going to know which UVs correspond to different meshes. So what I do is all the UVs that I finish, I move them out, and then when it's time to build, I just plot them however I need to afterwards. Let's do the roof. So I'll hide everything and bring the roof back. Okay, for the roof, we can do an automatic mapping and see how automatic wrapping does this. It's really ugly. You get a lot of pieces, and you can see how it broke it out, and I don't want this. So let's do another method. Let's do planar mapping. And at the beginning, you're gonna see this. You're gonna see that it looks really wrong, but that's fine. The way I did it this way is because I want to set my own cuts. So I'll grab these edges. I'm gonna grab these edges and I'll cut. Then I'll grab the bottom ones and I'll cut. So now we have two pieces, the pieces from the top and the pieces from the bottom. And then these two edges right here, I'll cut them so that I can have the top part one piece and the bottom part another piece. Then the bottom part I'll unfold, and you see it'll make it small. If you want it to become the same textile density as the other ones, you'll select the arc, press get in the transformation, and then select the little one and set, and it'll make it the same textile density as the other one. What I want to do on this one is let's do an unwrap, and it unwraps it for me, and unfold. There you go. We got the bottom, the two top parts, and then I'll check these, unfold, and I'll see stretching, and you see that I don't have a lot of stretching at all. So the UVs on this one is going to come out really nice. So I'll move it out of the way and hide it back again. Let's do the arc. And the arc is basically pretty simple. If you do automatic mapping, it's just going to give you that. And for the arc, you only have, see, this is a problem. You want select all these edges and bridge. And then come with the multi-cut and cut across. Because sometimes it doesn't do the cuts for you. Check. Yep, it does have a cut. One here, one here. And then this is a vert, this is another vert. Now you check, you select all the vertices, and you see you have 27 vertices. You should right click, merge vertice, merge. If it didn't do anything, then your mesh is completely closed. So that's what I wanted. Now I do an automatic wrapping to check, and we can see we have one piece, another piece, the back piece. And then what I'll do on this one is I'll grab these two edges, move in so, and then I'll put these on the back, because the back is not that important. And move in so, and then unwrap. And if you're getting a little bit of stretching, then you just cut this piece so that this has more leeway and it opens up. So you can do, let's say, cut on this end, and if you do an unfold, it'll open up a little bit more. And that's how I did the arc. Same thing, I'll come, delete the history, save. Let's do the chimney. Chimney, same thing, pretty simple, automatic wrapping. You get all these parts. I mostly do automatic wrapping when it's like a square shaped mesh, because it's easier to handle, and it gives you like exactly the parts that you're gonna need. And I will not merge these and then unfold, because on these now I can apply different detail so that none of the sides look the same. And then we check. This is not important, so what I'll do is I'll come back and saw all the side edges. So now this is one piece, and you can see it on the mesh. The bottom one, I just hook it up to wherever. It really doesn't matter. And then these, I want them stuck to the top lip. So what I'll do is I'll select that edge, and then every time you pass through an edge, it'll tell you what edge is connected to. So I want this one here, this one here, and this one here. And that's that piece. And then we have the bottom one. In the bottom one, we could do the same thing. We can cut all these edges right here, and then paste them here, 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 and here. So now this UV are fine for the chimney. And I'll move it out. Support beam, same thing, automatic wrapping. Go into edge mode, select the edge, move in, shift right click, move in so, shift right click, move in so, shift right click, move in so, and then grab either. Delete the history and move the shell out of the way. So now we have that. We have this one. We don't have the arc. So for the arc, same thing. This one, automatic mapping. And you see this part, this part. And then you can see it broke out all these little pieces. But we don't want all these little pieces separated. So I'll just move in so, most of them. And I grabbed more than I needed to. So what I'll do is I'll cut this one out. And I already know that this is the top part. So you can see exactly which edge you're selecting. And go. Same thing, edge. Like so. And that's the top part. Is the bottom part. Move. And then at the bottom part, another. There you go. And then I'll do an unfold, a last unfold, just in case. And then these, they look kind of slanted. So all I want to do is press straight UVs and straight UVs. And then shrink, move it out of the way. The arc we did, the roof we did, the beam, same thing, unfold, and automatic mapping first, and then we'll select everything and do an unfold just in case. Edge, down, select the big part. So, and then one here and one here. Done. Move it out of the way. So it's basically grabbing each mesh and just breaking it down so that you have more manageable pieces that you can work with, and then you don't get once you start getting the field for shift right click, UVs get really easy to make because it's the same process again and again and again, and the menus are easier to get to than trying to go into each option, because the quick menu for the UVs at least is pretty narrow. All you do here is unwrap, select a face, move it, and then you right click to select any of the modes: edge, vertex, shell, or UV, or faces. And then once you select, let's say, an edge, the menu, the shift right click menu, is the only two options that you mostly use is cut and move, and so that's about it. So this is actually pretty simple than actually trying to go into these menus and just clicking here. You could do it, but it's easier if you just get used to the shift right click, move, and so go into shell again, edge, move, and so, move, and so, move, and so. And then you go into object mode again, Alt Shift D, or edit, delete by type, history. That's all it is. Another one, Chromatic Mapping, same thing. So creating UVs is just a repetitive workflow, and a lot of people hate it, including me. I hate doing UVs, but the necessary evil. That every modeler and texture artist has to go through. Now let's do the logs. The logs is pretty interesting because we have a couple of logs here, right? And I just want to do one log and transfer the UVs to the other ones, because you can basically sit here and create the UVs for each one of these, but it's a waste of time. So the first thing you want to do is grab the mesh. Since this mesh is composed of different meshes, basically different cylinders, and we want to separate them. But before we separate them, since they are one mesh, I want to give more detail to the edges, because these edges are pretty sharp. So I want to give it a little bevel to both sides. So what I want to do is I'll go into vertex mode, select all these vertex. So I have vertex from both sides. I don't want the vertex in the middle. So all I do is I go to the side view and control marquee select the middle one. That way I select the one in the front and the one in the back, and deselect these. So now that we don't have the middle one selected, then there's a secret menu. When you press, every time you see me work, I press shift right click, and it gives me the quick menu for edit the mesh. Now there's another menu that is the select menu. So anything under select here, this menu is actually, if you press control right click, you get this menu. And if you have vertices, then you can go from selecting vertices to selecting edges, selecting vertices to faces. You can go to any other modes. So I want to convert these into edges. So I want edge and to contained edges, and then it'll select all of these edges. And since we selected both on both sides, it selects all the middle edges as well. So what I want to do is press Control and marquee select and deselect the ones in the middle. And now that I have just the edges from both sides, I want to shift right click and bevel. And you see I got bevels on both sides. And then the fraction, you decrease the fraction. That's the amount of bevel that you can add. You can also add segments to make it rounder. And then you can also do like indents like this. But all I want to do is give it like a 0.1, and that looks pretty good. Now that we have this, what we want to do is delete the history. So Alt Shift D, or edit, delete by type history, and then I'll separate. So Shift right click and go into separate. And you're gonna see once you separate them that one is green and the other ones are gonna be white. That means that the mesh has been splitted, and now you have a group. And if you open the group, it's going to be composed of all these meshes plus a transform node. The transform node is the transform information for when this mesh was one piece. So you want to select all these meshes and delete the history so that that transform node just gets wiped out. Now we'll grab the bottom one and we'll do the UVs on this mesh. And to do the UVs on this mesh, since we didn't modify a lot of things in this mesh, all we want to do is select the middle part, unfold, and it unfolds, and then the top part, unfold and unfold. But you can see that since we added these, it added over here and it broke it out. We don't want that. What we really want is to make it simpler. I'm gonna show you a technique that I always use for cylinder meshes, and I'll do a planar mapping. That way I can set my own edges to cut, and then I'll go into edge mode, select that edge, because we know we want to unwrap this vertically. So I want one edge, so this is going to be the cut, and then we'll cut the two ends. So I'll double click on one of the edges from the corner, from the edge, one of the edge from the edge. No, one of the edges from either side, so that I can select the rim. So now that we have that, I'll shift right click inside the UV editor and cut. Now if I select everything and unfold, it unfolds this, and they unfold these with the rim. So that's how easy that becomes. Now to double check that it has the same texel density, I'll do get on the transform and then set. And now these two have the same texel density. Now that that's done, right, I'll delete the history on this, and then I'll transfer the UVs to the other ones. If I select the other cylinder, you're gonna see these are the old UVs. So to transfer, you come into Mesh, Transfer Attributes, and then you select the option box. And if I reset my settings, what we want to transfer is the UV sets. So we leave this as default. Then color sets, we turn that to off. And then we know for a fact that all these logs have the same vertex count. So you can see verts 50, 50, 50, 50. They all have the same because we just duplicated them. So the sample space is going to be typology because they all contain the same typology. So I'll select the original one, the ones with the actual UVs, and then shift right click, shift left click to select the other cylinder, and then press apply. And you see that these sets of UVs disappeared. They're not gone. If I go into shell, you can see now we have 2 of them. And since they copied the same UVs from the original log, then they're stacked on top of each other. And they can stay stacked for now. We can basically move them later. Now that we have that, we can grab this one and this one, press apply, this one and this one, apply, and you can select the first one and that one. It don't matter the order, just that the order is parent, child, and then apply. Parent, child, apply. And then once we have all of them, we'll select and delete the history, and then grab all the logs and we'll make them a whole, we'll make them one once again. So shift right click and combine. And now you're gonna see that you have a new mesh, and then the group node is left behind, and then in place of all the meshes, you have a group with transform. That's the history of each of the logs when they were individuals. So all you want to do is come in here and delete the history. But before you do that, I like to copy the name because the name is going to be lost. And then when you delete the history, all those nodes gets wiped out. And then I'll just paste back the name. Now this is UV'd already. Now that's done. Then we grab the other log, same process. So now let's check. Let's start spawning back all the meshes so that we can see. This one we haven't done yet. And this mesh, if we isolate select, is this mesh. So for this one, what I want to do is we can unwrap this many ways. Let's first delete the face on the bottom because we don't need it. And I'm already used to every time I do something on a mesh, I always delete the history. I'm used to it. Edge, grab all these edges and select these edges. Cut. Actually, no. Let's do first a planar mapping so that we get this. Now, edge, select that edge, cut, select the shell, unfold. There you go. These and these and these, and then unselect all these in the bottom. Cut, unfold, and this is one way of unwrapping it. Another way of unwrapping it is, instead of doing that, you can also grab all these, cut, select the top shell, unfold. You can just plot a texture on the top, and then these we can grab these edge right here, except these. Unfold, no, not unfold, cut, and then grab the shell, unfold, and it unfolds. I don't like this unwrap though, so I'll go with I'll select all these edges right here and cut them all, and I can just paste them back here. And every time you do that, since they're different size, you can just unfold. So edge, edge, and edge, and then unfold. And that's an unwrapping that I actually like. And then delete the history. And if you see, they have the same textile density everywhere. So this is a pretty nice unwrap.